The story begins with a brave girl preparing to climb down from a 1,000-meter-high tower. But the moment she stepped onto the fire ladder, she suddenly slipped. Thankfully, her friend reacted instantly and grabbed the safety rope, somehow stopping her from falling. Just a few seconds later, the ladder crashed down to the ground below. Seeing this filled the girl's heart with overwhelming fear. With the help of her trustworthy friend, she gathered all her strength and slowly started climbing back up. After a great struggle, she finally made it out of danger. Both of them laughed loudly and congratulated each other. But when they looked down, they realized that the ladder they had been relying on had already fallen to the ground. Now there was no way left for them to climb down. It felt as if dying would be better, and they regretted coming there and getting trapped in such a terrible situation. The girl's name was Becky, an amateur mountain climber. But during a climb 1 year earlier, she had watched with her own eyes as her husband fell from a mountain, music, and died in an accident. After that incident, she was completely shattered and distanced herself from all social relationships. But a few days ago, her friend suddenly came to her house and told her that she had now become a full-time streamer. To attract viewers, she had planned to climb the 4th tallest abandoned TV tower in America. Becky wanted to refuse at first, but her friend told her this could be a chance to escape her grief. Through a dangerous adventure, music, she could say goodbye to her painful past. Eventually, Becky agreed. Both of them drove to a bar near the TV music tower. There, the locals told them that the tower was around 600 meters high and had been in terrible condition for a long time. The government was planning to demolish it soon. But Becky and her friend didn't take the warning seriously. Early the next morning, they woke up and drove toward the TV tower. As they got closer, they found a no-entry sign blocking the way. Becky had no other option, music, so she and her friend continued on foot through the deserted area. When they finally reached the base of the tower, they truly realized how massive and terrifying it was. Becky's heart filled with fear once again, but her friend was extremely excited. She connected both of them together using safety locks, and then started climbing up the iron ladders. Becky didn't want to ruin the mood, so she took a deep breath and began climbing with heavy steps. The rusty ladders shook with every step they took, as if they could break and fall apart at any moment. Becky's breathing became faster, and she couldn't even gather the courage to look down the entire time. Her friend, on the other hand, was the complete opposite. The higher she climbed, the more excited she became. Soon, they reached the upper platform of the tower. Above that, only a thin iron rod remained, with an antenna attached to it. Strong winds echoed all around them. Becky took a deep breath, closed her eyes, and continued forward, carefully crossing the exposed sections of the signal receiver. Both of them finally reached the very top of the tower. Looking at the breathtaking view of the vast mountains spread out in every direction, they screamed with joy. It was the kind of sight people risk death just to witness. Both of them felt a sense of achievement, unlike anything they had ever experienced before. Her friend immediately pulled out her phone and started taking photos and videos in different poses. She had even bought a new drone especially for this. She was completely sure that if she uploaded the video online, it would definitely go viral. Meanwhile, Becky took out her husband's ashes and slowly scattered them into the wind, as if she were finally saying goodbye to all the pain and memories of her past. But just as the two of them were preparing to climb back down, the old, rusty ladder suddenly broke apart and crashed to the ground. Thankfully, neither of them was injured, but their only way down was gone. Panicking, they tried to call for help on their phones, but there was absolutely no network signal. Becky nervously looked around, and then she noticed an emergency contact box near her feet. But then, Becky realized another huge problem. During the accident, their bag had fallen and gotten stuck on the signal receiver below, and inside that bag was all their food and water. Thinking about this made Becky panic again, but her friends still remained optimistic. She said that maybe someone passing nearby would hear the loud sound of the ladder falling. But even after 2 hours, they saw no sign of another human being nearby. The only thing visible in the distance was a broken camping van. her friend checked her phone signal once again. To her surprise, she discovered that someone had actually liked the video they uploaded beneath the tower. That meant if they lowered the phone a little farther down, they might finally get network coverage. Both of them quickly typed a message asking for help. Then they slowly lowered the phone down using a rope, hoping that as soon as it entered the signal range, the message would automatically send. But unfortunately, the rope's length was limited. Even when her friend nearly dangled in the air herself, the phone still couldn't get a signal. That's when Becky suddenly came up with a strange idea. She suggested throwing the phone downward, as long as it didn't break. They placed the phone inside a shoe, but because it kept moving around, it didn't seem safe enough. So her friend quickly took off her socks and stuffed them inside the shoe so the phone would stay fixed properly. Once everything was set, both of them threw the shoe down with hopeful hearts. Now whether it would work or not depended entirely on luck. Her friend looked around with binoculars. Suddenly she noticed movement beneath the tower. Both girls started screaming loudly, but the distance was too great for their voices to reach there. Becky panicked and immediately threw her second shoe down as well. Luckily, the shoe hit the fallen ladder, and finally the man below looked in that direction. Becky and her friend laughed happily, believing they would now be saved. But the man only looked around confused and still couldn't see the two girls standing at the top of the tower. Her friend quickly stopped Becky and said this was their last chance. It would be better to wait until nightfall and signal him then, since the man was still nearby. Eventually, the sun set. Becky took out a signal gun and fired it. This time, the man finally saw the two girls standing at the top of the tower. Both of them jumped with joy, believing they would finally escape this horrifying place. But then the man slowly walked toward their car, smashed the window, openly stole the car, and drove away. Watching this cruel robbery shattered all of Becky and her friends' hopes. Even the flashing signal light above the tower could no longer comfort them. Leaning against each other, they spent the entire night there. By morning, both their bodies and minds were completely exhausted. The rescue team still hadn't arrived, which meant the phone they had thrown down had probably broken before it could get a signal. Becky regretfully said that if only their drone still worked, they could fly it toward the nearby diner and send a message for help. Her friend looked at the bag hanging below and thought that as long as she still had some strength left, she could try climbing down using the safety rope. They tightly tied one end of the rope to an iron rod. Her friend looked deeply into Becky's eyes and then started descending. But the most troubling thing was that the rope was too short. It stopped just before reaching the destination. Finally, her friend had to unlock her safety harness and take a terrifying risk by jumping forward using only her body weight. She landed hard on the signal receiver below. As soon as she reached it, she let out a long breath of relief. But finding the bag wasn't enough, because now the problem was how to climb back up again. After thinking for a moment, her friend took out a selfie stick from the bag. First, she tied the bag securely to the safety rope. Then, encouraged by Becky, she jumped. The good news was that she successfully grabbed the bag. But the bad news was that just when she was almost reaching the top of the tower, her hand slipped and she fell down. She thought her friend had died. After gathering enough courage to look down, she thanked God because her friend was still alive. Actually, the bag hanging from the rope had acted like a cushion and saved her life. Through their combined effort, her friend somehow managed to climb back to the top of the tower again. Becky immediately grabbed the bag and quickly started drinking mineral water. After that, she used an eyebrow pencil to write a message asking for help on a piece of paper. When the drone lifted off, carrying the note, and began flying toward the nearby bar, happiness was clearly visible on Becky's face. But the very next moment, the remote control showed that the drone's battery was almost dead. As a precaution, they decided to call the drone back first and fully recharge it before trying again, because they only had one chance left. But the problem was, where could they possibly find electricity on this 1,000-meter-high iron tower? Both of them waited in despair and helplessness. Finally, night fell. When the tower's signal light turned on again, a new sense of hope awakened in their hearts. After a difficult night, morning finally arrived. Becky gathered all her strength and climbed to the very top of the tower. Then she removed the cover from the signal light, revealing the electric bulb socket inside. She plugged her charger into it and supported herself with her own body while charging the drone. As the drone's battery slowly became full, Becky struggled to hold herself steady, but her heart was filled with happiness. But suddenly, a vulture circling above swooped toward her. In panic, while trying to avoid it, the bag behind her fell down. After a long while, when the drone was finally fully charged, Becky quickly climbed back onto the platform. After hours of exhausting struggle, she was completely worn out. But the moment she launched the drone again, she suddenly felt hopeful once more. Watching the drone slowly fly toward the nearby diner filled her heart with joy. As the drone got closer and closer to the place, Becky could hardly contain her excitement. But in the next moment, her hopes shattered again. A man noticed the drone, but he only glanced at it briefly before driving away in his truck. Now Becky had completely lost hope. Meanwhile, a vulture landed near the tower, as if it could smell a dead body. On top of that, dark clouds were gathering in the sky, and a terrible storm was approaching. Becky began to feel like she wouldn't be able to survive much longer. Just then, her friend encouraged her and said she needed to eat something to regain her strength. Becky looked at her tight shoes and suggested trying once again to throw the phone downward. But then her friend turned toward her and reminded her that the shoes had already fallen down earlier. At that moment, Becky suddenly remembered the horrifying truth. Her friend had actually died the day before when she fell. Becky had only been imagining that her friend was still alive because of her fear and loneliness. Realizing the truth, Becky broke down crying uncontrollably. Meanwhile, the storm was rapidly approaching. Becky curled her body tightly and gripped the iron rod with both hands. No one knew how much time passed. Slowly, the woman's eyes began to close. After the storm calmed down, a vulture landed beside the unconscious Becky. After staring at her for a while, it began tearing at the rotten flesh from her wounds and eating it. But suddenly, Becky stretched out both her hands and grabbed the vulture's neck. In reality, she had only been pretending to be unconscious so she could catch the vulture and eat its flesh to regain her strength. After eating and recovering some energy, Becky tied the safety rope to the iron rod and started climbing down. When she finally reached the rope's last limit, she unlocked her safety harness and made one huge jump. This way, she finally reached the platform where her friend had fallen and died. She angrily chased away the vultures gathered there. After that, she took out the phone once again. She typed another message asking for help and placed it inside her friend's shoe. Looking at her friend's corpse, with its eyes still open, music, Becky felt deep regret in her heart. But what she did next was absolutely horrifying. She shoved the shoe into her friend's dead body and pushed it downward with all her strength. Music. Her friend's corpse fell from a height of 1,000 meters. As the body hit the ground, it acted like a cushion and prevented the phone from breaking. Finally, the phone's emergency message was successfully sent.